Welcome to a new episode of Here is Sharjah, the podcast that gives you an exclusive look into the lives of Sharjah's most iconic locals. Brought to you by Sharjah Libraries. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Here is Sharjah, your dedicated podcast series enlightening you with all sorts of topics that shape today's world. I'm your host, Mikail Atiyeh, and today we have a special episode all talking about the world of video games. And here with me is a special guest, a fellow businessman, but also at heart, a gamer. This is Ghassan Shareef. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Mikail. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Wait, can I call you Mikey or only Mikail?
However you like.
It's been 15 years I've been calling you Mikey, so Mikey it's going to be.
So we're good friends, and but one thing that we share is the love for gaming.
Yes.
And I think that's probably what has shaped our friendship over the past couple of years. And
Resident Evil 4 was the first game.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Evil 4, PS2 from
Good times. But the thing about why this episode is very important is because, you know, we've grown from just being fellow hobbyists of gaming to now we look at it very differently. We become very critical.
We look at the industry as a whole, not just the games in themselves.
Yeah, we've become almost analysts in a sense, and it has to do with the fact that the gaming industry has changed a lot. It's shifted from what we thought would be games 5-10 years ago to something completely different. And for our audience, it's important to know that the gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar business. It makes more money than music or even the movie industry combined. And it is still this type of industry that seems to continuously evolve and get bigger and bigger. But there's an uncertain fate to how gaming is going to be, even by next year or from a decade from now. So we want to take it back a bit and talk about, you know, our journey here as gamers, where we started off with, you know, the
PS2 games and PS1 even.
The PlayStation 1, the Nintendo, the
GameCube, Wii for a very short amount of time, and then the PlayStation 2, which we spent the longest amount of time on.
Very much so.
But then I believe the evolution was when the PlayStation 3 came out. If you remember, it was the first time online gaming. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 and 2, 2009. I still remember it. It was the first time we used to actually play online. We never even knew about online until that point. And then obviously PlayStation 4 came out. But here's the thing about gaming, I told you this before. You can divide it into two phases. Before Battle Royale and after Battle Royale.
This is a very interesting point you make.
And I still believe,
this is where really gaming has changed.
Very much so.
Forever.
Before PUBG and Fortnite and after PUBG and Fortnite, which I don't know, which year did they come out actually?
Roughly around 2016.
16, yes.
Yes, so what Ghassan is talking about here is that there was a time when gaming was always about, you know, single player experiences.
Or simple multiplayer.
Single multiplayer.
Or just simple multiplayer where the maps all come out or whatever the case, and that's it.
Exactly.
But then 2016 came. You said 2016, right?
Roughly around that. It was roughly around that time.
16, 17.
When we got introduced. We didn't call it that. We didn't call it back then.
We didn't know. We thought it was a failed experiment.
Yes.
When it came out, it was actually on the list of the worst games on people's list.
Very much so.
And then the battle pass system came with it.
Yes.
And that's what I believe gaming really took a hit.
So this new idea that came, it's now labeled as live service.
Yes.
Which is basically a game not treated as a product, as a one-time experience, but as an ongoing service that you can continuously be coming back to, continuously subscribing to. And maybe in first glance, this was a good idea, but what it has devolved into, I don't want to call it evolved, devolved into.
And you can tell from how many studios were shut down because of it.
So but basically these live services have created this, what we call the infinite experience.
Yes.
You know, a multiplayer experience.
I would call the repetitive experience.
The repetitive,
which me and you, we've tested with Destiny 2.
And that's the thing, is that we've grown up playing through different generations of video games, and now we see this rise of the live service. And you know, we've put quite some time into different types of live services like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warzone, Destiny. Yes.
that was when we realized this is a failed experiment.
Yes.
If you remember, we played how many hours? I think like a lot of hours.
And
we bought the season which came out last year. No, sorry, a couple of months ago. I think so. And we've realized it's empty.
It is.
It's empty.
And no offense. And no offense to our audience and those who
whoever enjoys it. And
yes.
I see the enjoyment. We've played it heavily. But my problem with it is that you're paying the price of a full game and you still need to grind after. It's the grind. Like
exactly.
Maybe when we were kids, 10 years ago was okay.
Yeah.
But now that you're older and let's say we have work and other activities, you can't just mindlessly grind. And you've tested it. You've tested before me. The reward for the grind is not worth it.
Exactly. Where games have now these live services has turned into these highly demanding type of experience that needs you to be always playing. They try to promote what we call FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So you got to be there on that week, you got to be there on that month to be able to enjoy the rewards, and it's become almost like a psychological experimentation. It's an addiction in a sense.
I've seen younger people, my brother included back in the day, it's an addiction. When he sits on Fortnite for 6 hours, and then when you look at that, what he actually played, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Like compare it to the recent games we played from software games. I have to say that.
But that's the thing about the industry, is that we're not saying that live services is the doom be all.
They're not the doom be all, but they are oversaturating the market with them, and they're not doing them properly. Sony, for example, 3 years ago they were developing only single player games, and you remember.
Yes.
Now they only had Spider-Man 2 come out, and all their focus shifted on this new Bungie game, Marathon. What was
Marathon,
it?
which is a live service,
which is also a live service game. They shifted their entire focus on live service games, and they completely let go of the single player games, which what Sony grew their IP from.
Yes.
And I do believe you will see the effect negatively on Sony in the coming year. That's my theory, because there were some studios that shut down because of that.
Exactly.
I think a couple of months ago there were 4 or 5, even Ubisoft studios shut down because they're all developing live service games, but they couldn't get the return on their investment in time, so they had to lay off a lot. So you can tell it's not easy money.
Exactly.
It's not a cheat code that companies can just do. There's a way to do it. And the market is oversaturated also. You have Fortnite, Destiny, Warzone,
Apex
PUBG,
Legends,
and that's
Fall Guys, so many more.
And that's
but these are the big ones. These are the ones who they have the biggest share in this.
And they will always remain the biggest.
Yeah.
But for the small companies that try to get into it, they think it's easy money. It's not the case.
What's happening right now in the industry is there was a time when games were sold with a sort of idea or a mechanic or a premise or a story, but nowadays it's just
all the same thing.
It's all the same thing with a different skin of some kind. I'm not saying that all games that come out are like this, but we're finding ourselves in an almost like a artistic sort of downgrade. Where we're not developing games that really are redefining the genre.
I'll give an example, which we discussed when we played Call of Duty a couple of weeks ago. I told you, after Fortnite, every multiplayer main menu became the same.
Yes.
They all looked the HUD, what do you call it? The main menu for multiplayer, it's all the same. They look the same. Look at Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2009 main menu. It was a very simple text.
Yes.
That's it. Just find game, private match, LAN, and create a room. That's it. That was the only thing that was on the screen. Now, if you go to any main menu, they all look the same. Just throw stuff at your face in the interface.
Yeah.
And it looks jarring. And I told you this 2 weeks ago. I'm like, they all look the same. Battle Royale aside, even multiplayer, just normal playing with friends, started looking the same as a Battle Royale. So yeah, it's quite hectic.
It's a bit of a concern. But let's go back a bit and focus on a particular book That's going to be the center point of this episode. This is a book that was written by Jason Schreier. This is an iconic video game journalist in the industry. And his book that he wrote back in 2017, this is called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. And it's basically an entire archive that covers the behind the stories of many developers and all sorts of studios talking about their experiences creating video games, which I have to tell you is not an easy endeavor.
No.
It is almost a miracle.
It's risky, actually.
It's risky, it's expensive.
Yes.
You require a tremendous amount of talent.
Yes.
You require a tremendous amount of time and money, and you need to understand what's out there that's can be viably sold to gamers nowadays, because
that's why they go for the easy route.
Exactly. And there's so many trends that are constantly, so you may be developing a game 3 years in based on a particular trend, but that trend died out.
Yes, which happened multiple times. Yes.
So I really urge our listeners to take a look at this book. This is called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. It gives you a profound appreciation for the people behind the gaming experiences that you know and love. And despite our personal complaints of the state of gaming nowadays, we always still have a fondness and appreciation.
You can't blame the developers.
Exactly. This is something at a more business. This is more of
the executives,
the higher ups who look at things at a bigger picture. But this book really narrows down, goes on a smaller kind of perspective, a personal perspective of developers from numerous departments and their heart and soul and their sacrifices that they had to go through to create things that, for us will always be entertainment. It will always be something that we look back fondly. So I really recommend this book.
This book sums up the cyberpunk issue that happened 2 years ago. Even though we all made fun of the developers, but behind the scenes they were very they were very tired, they were exhausted. It's true, the game came out, but this book actually just sums up the whole idea behind game.
It's really great. They are honestly the unsung heroes.
They are.
Especially in a time when we as gamers were extremely critical.
Yes.
Some of us are a bit too critical and a bit open about that criticism.
Especially with social media.
Yes, and people can find themselves going on social media, going on these social crusades, and sometimes even attacking those said developers
themselves,
behind projects that wasn't entirely in their hands, but in the hands of their managers and the business that they're under.
The heads of the studios, correct.
Yeah, and I again recommend you read this book, and it's the focus of our episode. But I want to now just ask you, with how video games are being made today.
Yes.
One thing that I've noticed, and we living in the Middle East, is there's not many studios over here that really develop video games at the scale that we see in the West. We're talking AAA quality.
Even AA. Like, we don't even need to go AAA, because even AA. But no, that's true. There aren't any here. If you really think about it, even in the East, only Japan exists, but China and all these other countries, they don't have it. And the Middle East as well. I don't know what's the reason. Maybe the culture of studying game developing here is not as big as how it is in the West.
There are colleges dedicated to this craft.
They're a startup, So maybe I would say people who are studying now, maybe we'll see a change in 10 years, because all the people who are studying now grew up in the era of PS2 and PS3, actually even PS3.
Exactly.
Now.
Exactly.
So maybe in 10 years, 10 years, we'll see a change. If the capital is there, because don't forget, in the West they have all these studios, but you have these big publishers who back them. Yeah. So if the capital is there, I think maybe in 5 years you'll have the talent to do it, but it all depends.
I think there's tremendous talent. It's just a matter of having hubs and business platforms and actual publishers who
to help them publish the games and market it. I mean,
very much so.
Market it. I think that's the main concern.
Which brings in my next question is that there is a lot of promise for this country and for the Middle East, where we're seeing
a lot of gamers here. I'm just saying.
There's a lot of gamers. The culture here is insane. It is such a mainstream thing, and I mean, despite the fact that it's not as the way I put it is that it's young. You know, things are still not as developed, but there is promise for something greater.
You're talking in the terms of studios here,
studios,
right? Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, as I said, 5 to 10 years from now, because the people who are studying, especially in the colleges and universities in the whole Middle East, there aren't really game developer colleges, but in the West there is.
Yes.
Now they're starting in the Middle East. So hopefully in 5-10 years, we will see a difference if the marketing and the publishers are there.
Which is why, to our dear listeners,
a lot of gamer. Remember in our high school, every person in that school was a gamer.
Exactly.
But of course, the risk here is that they want to take it as a career path, but they're too afraid to take it as a career path. So hopefully in 5 years that will change. They will see the money that's in it, and the return on investment.
Which is why I urge our listeners to check out the book. Again, it's called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels.
Give you an idea of what you're walking into.
You want to be able to have realistic expectations about jumping into video game development.
Yes.
It can be one of the most lucrative businesses out there.
Yes.
But you also have to be prepared. And a book like this can really give you the proper insight to that world, which can be intensely competitive, intensely creative, and all at the same time, perhaps at the end of it all, something beautiful that everyone will enjoy at the same time.
Yep.
Thank you, Ghassan, for being here on this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And this wraps up our episode of Here's Sharjah, right here, a courtesy of the Sharjah Book Authority. Be sure to tune in right here with more episodes. This is your host, Mikail Atiyeh, signing out. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us on this exciting episode of Here is Sharjah. Don't forget to subscribe to the Here is Sharjah podcast and stay tuned for more fascinating episodes. Brought to you by Sharjah Libraries.